welcome to Tabadlab Live. Tabadlab Live is a series of conversations hosted by Tabadlab. Tabadlab itself is a public policy focused institute. It looks at issues that are pertinent and relevant to global and local public policy. And today I'm delighted to welcome Alia Malik from the Better Cotton Initiative. And of course, the Better Cotton Initiative is a worldwide network, really, of organizations and people that work together to try and ensure the best kind of cotton production and use. And I'll let you, Alia, describe that in greater detail. But Alia, you are the head of implementation for BCI. It's a great pleasure to have you at the Tabadlab Live. Thank you for joining us and welcome.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. So the Better Cotton Initiative is, we're a not-for-profit, and we're also a multi-stakeholder initiative. So we were founded originally by global multinational brands and retailers together with international NGOs and a variety of partners coming together to work out how to transform the cotton sector for the future. So we're really working to make cotton better for the farmers who produce it, better for the environment that it's grown in, better for the sector's future.
Okay, so on the farmers' part, when you say better, I'm hearing that farmers can make more money. Is that accurate, or is there other aspects to the better for farmers?
There are many aspects to it. So we have a licensing program, like a sustainability standard. So if you think about organic, fair trade, those initiatives, they're certifying the top of practice. So a very specific set of practices, and one of the difficulties is that it's not always accessible to farmers. So a smallholder producer growing on, 2 hectares of land can't necessarily get their certification readiness for those systems. And so the Better Cotton Initiative is about bringing everybody in. So we have a range of criteria, and the farmers need to meet the minimum. And to stay part of Better Cotton, they have to improve year on year in metrics from water management, fertilizer, pesticide use, decent labor, so whether children are employed in the field, all across the board.
Wow.
And from a profitability point of view, we're also premium neutral, but we want it to be free for smallholders and medium farmers to be involved in our standard system. And where farmers really benefit, especially in the first years, is that a lot of cotton production around the world is inefficient. So let's say 50% of the pesticides used in all the developing countries are used on cotton.
Wow.
And that's because people don't eat cotton. And
so they're like free-for-all, like just drown it in the pesticides.
But let's keep it safe. It's a cash crop.
Yeah.
We need to make sure we protect that income and protect the investment. And actually, it's possible to grow cotton and have good yields based on careful best practices. And so through our work, we're funding implementing partners on the ground to support farmers to manage their use of water better, to manage the use of pesticide better. And in that process, using less input, we see that farmers do even have better yields. So in Pakistan, for example, average yields are something like 650 metric tons per hectare. And with BCI farmers, we look at the comparison of the BCI farmers, it's something like 10 or 50% better, the yields, even if they're using less input. So their profitability is going up.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so basically you help farmers make a better quality product, which is cotton itself. And you help countries manage their environment and the challenge of climate change a little bit better in terms of the use of water, the use of these poisons or pesticides.
Exactly.
And probably also the use of electricity and sort of groundwater. There's a whole range of things.
It's looking all across the board at the inputs.
Okay, fantastic. And then the third piece of the Better Cotton Initiative is the future of the sector.
So think about the future, yes. So one of the things that I find very compelling working at BCI is that our theory of change is about systems transformation. It's about sector change. And so our bet is that, improving cotton production is a great thing, sure, but it must be connected to the market. And so what we're doing is to simultaneously work with the brands and retailers to make buying more sustainable cotton the norm. and at the same time making sure there's enough sustainable cotton available so they can procure it as their entire production line. This year, one of our retailer and brand members, Marks and Spencer, has moved over to 100% more sustainable sourcing.
Wow.
Yeah, which is amazing.
So all their cotton input is BCI, is it? Or BCI is certified?
We should generally be, so we do a licensing program. We should generally be about 90%. And then the rest we made up of recycled, of organic, fair trade.
Sure.
And the way we work, we see any win for more sustainable cotton to be a win.
Sure.
You know, that's.
So if somebody's using 5%, that's good. You want them at 10%, and then
Yes.
all the way up to 90%.
Yes, we want them to go the whole way, whether it's with us or organic or anyone.
Sure, sure. And obviously, I'm fascinated, and I would love to talk more about BCI itself, because it sounds like a fascinating model where you're not dependent just on one method of funding. It's not just donors or multilaterals that are interested in this. Of course they would be, because in a sense BCI represents an instrument that helps achieve multiple sustainable development goals, right? So you're not just SDG for climate change, actually SDG on a whole range of issues.
We're doing poverty,
Exactly.
we're doing education,
Yeah.
we're doing women's empowerment.
Sure, but it's also clear that your members, these corporates themselves, have a vital material interest in you doing well.
They do.
And I guess for me, you know, sitting here in Pakistan, what's really fascinating about this is, can Pakistan's exports? Because the big question in the Pakistani economy, I think, as you know, is really, is this country going to be able to massively increase its exports in a way that allows this country to grow at a high economic growth rate for a sustainable period of time? And it sounds to me like this might be one of those less thought about instruments of generating premium on what we already have in terms of what we export from cotton. Now, just to get a sense of the numbers, because I'm not an expert in this at all, as you know, but Pakistan is not an insignificant producer of cotton worldwide.
Oh yeah, Pakistan is a very large producer of cotton worldwide. I think the numbers fluctuate, but I think the latest is it's 5th in global cotton production.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, that's so 5th in global cotton production. And right now, if you were to grade Pakistan on sort of how much of Pakistani cotton is BCI certified, I don't know why I did that.
Yeah. That's like it's licensed.
Okay, see, that's why I did that, because I don't know. So BCI licensed.
Yeah.
So how much of Pakistani cotton is BCI licensed?
So I think the last production season, it was something like 35%, and this production season should be about 40% of
40% of all
Pakistani cotton production.
Wow. So is
by
that
licensed farmers? Yeah.
That sounds like it's quite good.
It's good. It's good. It's actually, if we look across our country programs, we have big country programs in India and in China, but Pakistan is definitely among our big producers the largest amount of the national production that is better cotton.
And what would you attribute that success for BCI, and clearly that success for Pakistani farmers and for Pakistan too? Why has Pakistan been able to adopt and adapt so quickly? Because one of the things you said struck me earlier on. One of the challenges in Pakistan is farm holdings have reduced over the last 2, 3, 4 decades. The average size of a farm holding used to be much larger. There's been a lot of fragmentation because family sizes have increased, and it's usually through inheritance. So we've had some instances of consolidation and corporatization, and we still have large landowners. But in the Punjab in particular, land holdings have become much smaller. So which makes it more, I would think it would make it more difficult for Pakistani cotton to be licensed.
It is more difficult.
Okay.
It is an amazing achievement.
Okay. And how has it happened?
I feel like there are a number of factors. On the one hand, we have a very strong country team here in Pakistan that's been stewarding the work. Our partners that we work with on the ground are amazing.
Non-profits or government?
Not-for-profits, mostly. And we're also this year doing a pilot with the Agriculture Extension Department.
Okay.
And they are implementing a project.
In the Punjab?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes, it is fantastic. So what we'd really like to see as things progress is more and more of this work being led by our partners in the government.
Now, some cynics, if they were watching this, and I hope they are, some cynics would potentially say, you know, cotton's all good, but cotton is really the first stage in what ends up being maybe like a shirt that you wear
Sure.
or a towel that you use. And I think from a policy standpoint, one of Pakistan's aspirations is to move up the value chain so that it's not just really good, even though it's a big cotton producer or manufacturer, what it really should be manufacturing is the end product, because that's when the deltas, the premiums on that value chain start to accrue to the local economy, to our farmers, to our manufacturers, and our labor.
Yeah.
How does BCI see that? I mean, first of all, if you don't mind, just because a lot of people will be new to this, just walk us through the value chain in cotton. Like, how do we get?
Where do we get a T-shirt?
Exactly.
Or a very fine shirt from? So cotton is an amazing crop in that it comes from the earth, and as such, its product lifestyle can eventually be reabsorbed back into the earth. So it has a sustainability metric built into it. Cotton is produced on a plant, and it has these lovely little, looks like cotton buds, and those need to go to a gin where the seeds are extracted and the fine fibers of cotton are separated. Yes, and you can make an oil from the seeds, and then the fibers go on to the next chapter, which is spinning.
Okay.
So with spinning, the fibers are spun together into threads, which then go to the next chapter, which is being woven. Where all the fibers are combined to make textiles that we're familiar with.
Right.
And then, of course, you go into the next chapter where there's stitching and fabric is sewn together to produce a garment. And of course, there are lots of other value adds along the way. Like there's design, there's the dyeing industry, there's finishing and marketing, of course. But those are the core.
Would it be accurate to say that in this really very quick Cotton 101 sort of that you've, or really clothes 101 in a sense, right? That you've explained, that Pakistan maybe hasn't taken advantage of the different phases, that it's maybe really good at one aspect and maybe two aspects, but not quite the whole spectrum? Or is that a normal thing? Is that just the way cotton is? Or is it a little bit of both?
It's a little bit of both. So Pakistan has a huge spinning industry.
Okay.
And it has huge cotton production. And then a lot of textile and garment manufacture is going elsewhere.
Okay.
You know, but that said, it's totally normal.
Okay.
Because
the opposite would be that in the places where they're making the clothes, they don't actually have the cotton, or they don't gin or spin.
Exactly.
Right.
So say Bangladesh is the home of textile,
right?
But not much cotton is produced in Bangladesh, so it's coming from everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, American cotton growers, they might gin their cotton in the U.S., but from there it's almost certainly going to Turkey, to China, to Bangladesh, to Vietnam.
Right.
Because as countries grow over time, the competitiveness of each sector really depends on whether the government makes it possible for that sector to stay there.
Okay. And so so we, like, somebody who's a newbie to this shouldn't feel that, you know, oh, Pakistan should get in on all 5 stages and government policy should be promoting all 5 stages, so that this becomes like a wholly, you know, like a self-contained national manufacturing sort of power center. Is that an unreasonable thing to think about or expect?
It's not an unreasonable thing to think about.
Okay.
If I were to think about it, I would want to go from strengthening the farm level cotton production. So keep in mind, so I know the BCI numbers well. We work with 500,000 farmers across Pakistan this year, and that will touch several million lives.
Yeah.
So you make sure that sector is functioning well, that it's profitable for the farmers, and then from there you want to make sure the gins are equipped to do good trade.
Sure.
And that they have the environment they need from a policy point of view to do that. And then from there, there's already an amazing spinning industry here.
Do you mind if we just stop there for a second? So one of the things would be that the gin sector that you want to set up, when they source Pakistani cotton, it would have to be at a price that is competitive with the global price. And
Quality and price must match.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if it's BCI, but it's like it's $1
Yeah.
per unit.
Yeah, sure.
And if there's BCI sort of licensed cotton
Yes, good,
from China,
Yeah.
that is 95 cents, then the ginner would actually rather buy the cotton from China. Yes?
You know, the ginners have to also make a living.
Exactly.
But where I would see that there's scope for a government that wants to be proactive and wants to encourage at least a few sectors, let's say the first 3 chapters of textile to be more possible sourced within the country, it's useful to keep an eye on those trends and to provide support, targeted support at the right time.
Okay, just slightly changing course a little bit, but obviously still sticking to cotton. I was looking through cotton prices over the last 20, 30 years, and it hovers around the same area, but there's a year, I think it's 2010, when it's like double the price. What determines cotton prices? I'm assuming supply and demand, but is there more to it?
The cotton prices are really set by the market.
Okay.
And even at BCI, we don't, we're premium neutral. So the buyers and the sellers, based on the quality of the cotton, can agree what the price is.
Okay.
It's definitely a kind of complex bargaining between all the different actors,
Sure.
and then a question of supply and demand. So some years, if a quality of cotton is not available because the crop is bad somewhere, then the prices will necessarily go up.
Could the 2010 price have anything to do with what happened with the floods in Pakistan in 2010? I'm just speculating, but it just occurred to me that might be, because we had a bumper crop the next year.
Yeah.
But my own memory of this is also a little bit.
So I also am not sure about that specific incident, but I do know that flooding or drought, both are very bad.
Or disease, right?
Or disease, specific pests coming through.
How important is Chicago, like the mercantile exchange, I guess? Are cotton prices set at any kind of exchanges? Is Chicago the place, or is it just a global?
It's global.
So there's no one place that's
setting the. No. And it's really about, end of the day, the retailers and the brands are probably the more powerful actors in price of cotton.
Yeah. So if you really wanted to develop the sector, you would also be interested in supporting and enabling the retailers and brands. So, for example, in Pakistan, we have this amazing company called Khadi, which I'm sure you've heard of, right?
Definitely.
It's like a multinational now. And I found that, I found myself yearning for more brands like that are Pakistani, because I think that's where the real margins, from a cotton bud to all the stages of its life to a kurta.
And there's the added benefit that in this increasingly uncertain global trading climate, that business is protected when it's in one area.
Yeah.
So if the trade wars between the US and China or issues of Brexit are affecting the ability to buy and sell from different locations, increasingly it's an advantage to be able to do more of it vertically. And you see companies like Interloom, they really specialize in vertical integration.
Yeah.
So taking all the different pieces down.
And so it's clearly really good news. I mean, I think a lot of us here in Pakistan have been really excited about Interloop because of its big IPO. But I think what's even more exciting is that philosophy that Musaddiq Zulkarnain and his family and the Interloop owners, which now include a bunch of people on the stock exchange, that the ownership, that they see Interloop as a consolidator of the production sort of journey.
They do, and you can see in the way their business has grown, they really prioritize what was demanded by the market and making sure they could deliver on time, to quality, within the sourcing needs of their big clients.
So, so clearly there is a case for some coherence and sort of a cradle to grave thinking about cotton and textiles and clothes made from cotton. And clearly, Pakistan has the scope to really not only, because it's a big manufacturing center, because we grow so much cotton, There's a lot of scope there. And we've also covered the kind of SDG angle, right? That because it's water intensive in some, I guess relatively speaking, especially relative to Pakistan where water is in crisis. So we can use Better Cotton initiative like licensing to essentially improve the sustainability of how all of this is being done.
Yes, and sustainability today is competitiveness. It is becoming the norm for buying for all of the big players around the world. It's not even an optional, it's not even about CSR these days, it's just what...
It's not a luxury, it's a necessity.
Not a luxury, it's a necessity.
Sure,
Yeah.
that's absolutely clear. So, you know, we understand there's all these benefits. Maybe changing pace a little bit. I wonder what somebody like you, who is an expert on the sourcing and the buying and the production of cotton, and especially high quality cotton that aligns with all these different important necessities of today and the future. What would you say if you were like, you know, queen of the world and you could get the government to do whatever you wanted? What's that one thing that you would ask or tell the government to focus on?
So if I were queen of the world, and keeping in mind that Pakistan is close to my heart because my father's from Pakistan, and it's a country I'm very fond of, and what I would ask or what I would want is for more funding and support and effort going into working with farmers in the field. It's one of the ultimate truths is that for farmers to produce high yields with low inputs, they need support and best practice and knowledge and decent seeds.
And what is that? You're talking about agriculture extension, basically.
I'm talking about agriculture extension. I think that there's, in Pakistan, there's actually a strong agricultural extension tradition, yes.
Yeah.
And there's a wide network across the country. And I think just that little extra push to make sure that all of the dots are being connected at the field is the critical thing. Because you see governments like New Zealand, they looked at what they have, and they're an agricultural country, and they thought about how they could support their country. And they started creating a brand of New Zealand special produce. And they invested in researching the special qualities of their special produce. Like think of the Manuka honey from New Zealand. That was a government initiative. And you know, the Pakistan government could really look at the strength that is there. There's a huge cotton sector. And Pakistani cotton has a very good reputation. There's high quality being produced here. And there's such a huge advantage that could be leveraged with just a little bit of an extra push.
So that's interesting you say, because you know, when I hear people talk about cotton, I know that we make more than them, but for some reason I hear them talk about Egyptian cotton. And I love like Dunya, like no problem, you know, but really, why are they talking about Egyptian cotton and not Pakistani cotton? What is the thing? How did that happen for Egyptian cotton? Or is that just a historic like mythology and there's nothing special about Egyptian cotton?
Okay, so Egyptian cotton, they are farming a particular variety that is their own variety called Giza.
Okay.
And that cotton, in cotton there's short staple and long staple. And that essentially means that the fiber attached to it is either a very long or quite short.
Okay.
And short staple is what we make jeans out of, or kind of...
Socks.
Socks, yeah.
Interloop.
Socks and jeans,
Yeah.
interloop.
Yeah.
Whereas the very fine shirt you're making will probably be made with a longer staple.
Okay.
You can make finer textile. And
so it feels nicer to the touch?
yes, you can, it also can be very strong. Think about the long fibers woven together. There's that much extra length, surface area to bond to the other long fibers.
Got it. Yep.
So if you're making recycled cotton, for example, when you recycle cotton, you're shredding it down to its component parts, and you have very short staple.
Okay.
So you need to use long staple to make it into strong thread. However, long staple, like Egypt is not the only country that produces long staple. There's Pima and you know, Australia, New Zealand, they're producing long staple cotton as well. I think Pakistan also does produce some long staple. It's something that, you know, Pakistan cotton should aspire to be Pakistan cotton, known to be special and different, and makes these amazing products. And does have a good reputation, actually.
Sure.
The sector is known for quality.
Now I'm just really interested in the clothing part of the conversation. So I'm thinking, like when we hear thread count with like bed sheets and stuff, is that also, or is that purely a yarn, a spinning? I'm trying to remember all the stages, but is that more of a spinning issue, or is that also rooted in the quality of cotton?
So the thread count is more spinning and weaving. So if you think about it, if you have coarse fibers, and then coarse threads, and you've woven, like 100 thread count, you've woven,
It's quite thick.
It's thicker. It's a little bit more coarse. And then if you have very high thread count, you're using much finer fibers, and you're weaving a lot more of them together. So it should be more durable over time, and then also softer to the touch.
And therefore much more expensive.
And therefore quite expensive.
The reason, of course, that I asked this was less my of course it's really interesting, but also I'm going back to that value addition and the value chain.
Where are the opportunities?
Exactly. How do you expand the triangle, the delta of profit and benefit for Pakistani farmers, Pakistani jinners, Pakistani spinners, Pakistani weavers, and then Pakistani manufacturers.
To create more opportunities for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so would that be about right? Is that targeting, I mean, some of it should be music for the masses, of course, and whatever thread count that takes, whatever length of fiber that takes. But I think aiming towards the premium end of the thing, just because that's where it just seems to me obvious that the margins are so high. And also as we see, no matter what happens to the global economy, amazingly, luxury consumption doesn't stop. So is that about right? What would you say to that?
So when I think about it, I would kind of come back to that example of the New Zealand Manuka honey.
Yeah.
Right? Manuka honey is honey from a tea tree. It's from a flower, a particular kind of tea tree flower in New Zealand. And there was a hypothesis that it had special benefits. So they tested it, and they found it has special benefits, that they could test for those special benefits. And all of that was funded by the government. So and they gave their farmers a platform to have high value added, just from their honey production. They didn't, packaging aside, you don't find fancy packages of Manuka honey.
Yep.
Sometimes it's about recognizing and highlighting what you already have.
Yeah. So that really is a reinforcement of your earlier point that the more that the government is able to support farmers at the ground level, at their farm, literally.
Exactly.
And that's what traditional agriculture extension used to be.
That's what they do.
As you know, of course, Pakistan's gone through a really remarkable period of federalism in which a lot more power has been devolved to the provinces, and now is going through a fiscal crisis, which means that not just the provinces, but every tier of government is tight for money.
Yes.
And one of the victims, I think, in all of this whole journey has been, one of the areas has been agricultural extension. I mean, there's been a reasonable degree of policy incoherence at the federal level because we have a Ministry for Food Security that is also nominally a Ministry for Agriculture, but agriculture really is a provincial subject. And then within the provinces, there hasn't been the capacity, the level of attention, and the policy coherence, and the vision really. And one of the reasons I was really excited that we would get to speak to you is to really, in a sense, share with our viewers and people that are interested in this conversation the potential vision one could have for one part of the agricultural sector.
Yeah.
So I want to just thank you for doing that for us, and thank you for coming to Pakistan and working with Pakistani farmers. And that many. How long do you think before we hit 1 million?
Well, I don't want to put the team under too much pressure, but I would hope that we could get there in the next few years.
Yeah. So soon.
Yes, soon.
And if the government was to support it and push it, it would obviously happen a lot faster.
Absolutely, absolutely. The model works. The improvements on the ground based on the support are proven. The market is there, and Pakistan's in an extraordinary position right now where the devaluation has meant that the sector is incredibly competitive. So there's this moment where the whole sector could just, catapult forward into the future and really be more of a strength for the economy and also amazing source of livelihoods for people on the ground.
Well, it's always great to end on a note of positivity and optimism. It's my favorite thing in the world. And here it sounds like there's really good grounds for it. That the devaluation has created the opportunity for Pakistan to maybe catapult and leapfrog a little bit.
I think the combination of the more secure and stable climate and the devaluation, I think that there's so much there that's just ready for the opportunity to unfold.
Fantastic. As once again, I think Pakistan has had opportunities before, but it's exciting to think that there's another opportunity here, and that we could potentially take advantage of it and help grow the economy in a big way and make the lives of so many people, as you said, millions and millions of people, much, much better. Alia, thank you for doing the work that you do and for spending the time that you did with us here at Tabadlab.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me to speak. It's a great pleasure to be here, and I'm so happy to spend more time here in Pakistan to understand exactly how BCI's work can continue to unfold, and then also what we can do to be supportive of the sector as a whole here in Pakistan.
We wish BCI and you and your amazing team here in Pakistan and around the world the best of luck. Thanks once again for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thanks for tuning in and watching this episode of Tabadlab Live. Join us again soon for our next interesting conversation about public policy challenges. Thank you.